Hi, welcome to JJ's Productions, and I'm back with my Thrawn book review. And yeah, it's been I wouldn't say it was two bad chapters this week, but I don't think it could have followed up from the previous set, or the previous chapter even. And essentially, we've got a settling of roles in these two chapters. Thrawn settling in on the Chimera in chapter 20, and we've got the now Governor Price settling in on Lothal. So, like I say, these chapters weren't bad, they were just a bit middling. I feel like it's set up chapters, and we're certainly going to get payoffs eventually. I think more so with Thrawn's chapter than Price's, but still, there was a good moment in Price's to compensate. So, chapter 20, as I said, it was on the Chimera with Thrawn, and it's the idea that they're still chasing after Night Swan. It's been a while they've been on the Chimera, which sort of fits with how the book goes. You have a few chapters, then there's a time break, so nothing surprising there. And the idea is he's got three of his officers on deck, two of his officers plus a stormtrooper commander. So there's essentially a big meeting going on, and Vanto, now lieutenant commander, he comes in and he's briefed of the idea that this Imperial ship has been ambushed and they've got to go to support it. So they're a bit late getting there, and it turns out that the ship has been carrying Wookiee prisoners. So, well, no, it wasn't Wookiee prisoners even, it was Wookiee slaves. So, I'll get back to that little finer point in a minute, but Thrawn determines this by the fact that the beds are a bit larger, that there was a insignia or a mark left on the walls in blood by one of the Wookiees. So it was basically a mark of vengeance saying we will return. So Thrawn deduces that because of that, they will go to the destination the ship was taking them. The ambushers will go to the ship's location. So that is determined to be Land's End Station. So they head there, the station is under attack. Colonel Xenoc is the one who talks with Thrawn, and it's the idea of, okay, well, we're under attack, can you support us? Yeah. And essentially what Thrawn does, which is pretty clever, he ascertains where the invaders, the rebels, whatever you want to call them are. He shoots the bits of the station where they are and cuts them off. So essentially the invaders cannot actually invade the command of the station. So all that's got to be done is the command can repair the bridges or create bridges to where the invaders are and then take them over. So as far as strategy goes, I thought again it was a brilliant idea from Thrawn. You'd expect this with him, but yeah, it was a brilliant idea. And he doesn't even stick to hang around and see what happens. He just says, yeah, we're done here. One good note though at the end, that Vanto brings up the fact that he's a bit uneasy about the Empire using slaves. Now, Thrawn does say slaves aren't always what you think. Sometimes they can be sold into slavery of their own will to pay off a debt, or they could be slaves due to having committed crimes. And Vanto says, do you think it is any of them? And Thrawn admits, no. He concludes that it's none of their business anyway because they're just doing their job. But it was interesting just to see a little insight into Thrawn's ideology, in the sense that, yes, he may not agree with it, but because he believes himself loyal to the Empire, or at least he's pledged his loyalty to the Empire, he isn't willing to involve himself, which I find interesting because it really does. When you're looking at this character, you can't help but wonder what happens if a rebel had found Thrawn. Would he have pledged his allegiance to the Rebel Alliance? It would have been interesting. So, yeah, I can't help but read that lines like those and think, will time with Ezra in the Whale Land, for whatever we can call it for now, will that soften Thrawn a little bit as far as allegiances go? It's going to be interesting. Anyway, just getting back into the book, the idea is chapter 21 with following Price, and she's visiting Lothal for the first time. She's been governor for a year at this point. This is the bit I didn't get actually when I was reading it. It said that this is her first visit, yet she said she'd also been there. So there was a bit of contradiction there. I wouldn't mind that clarifying by someone. But essentially, it seems like her first official stay. Maybe that was it. It was a stay, not a visit. And she meets Minister Tua. Now, she was in Star Wars Rebels as well. She met a pretty grisly end in Season 2's premiere. I did enjoy a character, even if it was just one of these side Imperials. But yeah, it's interesting just to see that she was there to greet Price when she arrives, and from that moment, Price tries to instill fear in her, and it strikes so well with like the Imperial mantra of fear can rule, and it goes back to Tarkin and on the Death Star and New Hope, and fear essentially is keeping them in line just from the moment she gets there. So again, really like it. And she follows this up with a next meeting, which is with Senator Rankin. Now, I gather by this conversation they haven't conversed since she became governor, but that isn't too much of a surprise either. Now, as governor, she decides that her old mining facility, Price Mining, isn't creating enough credits. It's been mined of all the Dunium, so why waste resources there? So she shuts it down. Rankin has a stake in it, so essentially by pulling the miners out, she's hurting Rankin. He comes to talk by appointment, as it were, or she calls him in. He's not best pleased, and before he can even think to threaten her, she points out, I must have powerful friends to have gotten this position so young, so don't even try and bully me. And I've got to give her credit, it was a great power move. It essentially said, I'm putting you in your place, shut up. So I've got to admit, I'm really loving Price at the moment. She's a really meaty character. Maybe one-dimensional in some ways, but still it's meaty to see how she got there. And I'm still waiting for that challenge she's got to come up against, because the rest of the book cannot just be her ascending. There's got to be a little blip still, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. Anyway, the idea is after she's met with Rankin, basically frightened him off, she speaks to another local miner called Ekos. Apparently he's not a basic or an English speaker, so she just converses with him as quickly as she can, saying, I know you've been mining the Price Mining on the side. I know that there's still Dunium there, even though she's tried to add that from Rankin. So she basically tells Ekos, you can do it now without being bothered. So it was very sly from her, but nothing too surprising. Anyway, a few months pass by, she's just getting on with the mediocrity of being governor, and then she realises that a neighbouring system wants to essentially become the centre of the Imperial Navy ahead of Lothal. So she makes it her business to make sure that the Imperial Navy plants their base on Lothal. Minister 2 is useless in this regard, so she assigns her governorship, or not governorship, but assigns her to look after Lothal in her absence, which makes me wonder if the timeline overlaps a little bit with Rebels, because that would sort of explain why Price wasn't there. I don't know what the timeline is, that's why I need to find this out. But yeah, it's interesting that happened. And anyway, when she's away from the planet, she's trying to sort this out. She has a conversation with Thrawn on like the holo projector thing. And yeah, essentially Thrawn agrees that Lothal would be a good base. He backs it up and provides his own evidence with on top of hers. So yeah, it all seems to be going good. She meets up with Senator Rankin on Coruscant, and the two, I wouldn't say meet up, but they sort of meet in the middle a little bit, in the sense that he agrees that having an Imperial base would be beneficial. She requests that Thrawn try to get Governor Sands, who's the opposition essentially, on side by dropping their plans. And yeah, it all goes to plan. Lothal becomes the Imperial Navy base. But what is quite interesting is that she dupes Rankin. Major Artal, an ISB agent, turns up, says to Rankin, we've got proof that you tried to bribe Governor Sands. And when Rankin looks to Price as if to say, are you going to back me up here? She says, I told you to convince her and talk to her, not to bribe her. So, and then she reveals she actually reported him to the ISB. So again, it was a brilliant power move from Arinda Price. I've got to praise Timothy Zahn for just fleshing out a character, because she's so manipulative in this, and it's lovely to read. But equally, I wish she'd got moments like this in the TV show. So it's not a bad thing. You know, what Rebels was all about, well, the Rebels, Thrawn, Price, I wouldn't say they were the villain of the week, but they were basically the opposition. You didn't need to know too much about them. But it's brilliant having an opportunity like this to have them expanded a little bit more. So yeah, I am really looking forward to the next chapter, just to see what happens, because I'll be honest, I'm as much looking forward to reading what happens to Price as I am to Thrawn, because as I've said, Thrawn has got a long way to go in the ranks, and I'm imagining that he might have another blip that slows him down a little bit. I'm assuming he'll get Night Swan this book, but I've got Thrawn Alliances. I've been waiting to show that off, and I'm assuming that in that book there will be a new plot that's completely separate from Night Swan. I haven't even read the blurb for that just to avoid spoilers, but I'm going to assume there is a separate plot, so I assume Night Swan will be dealt with. But I am wondering if there comes a cost with it. Maybe Thrawn doesn't advance as fast as he has done, and it sets him up nicely for working with, or maybe in slight opposition to Vader in the next book. So, again, I am quite eager to find out what happens with Thrawn. But with Price, I might be wrong, but I suspect her story ends in this book. I can't imagine she would be a dual narrative in the next one, just for the simple reason that her story seems to be almost there. I mean, I don't know how much more you could drag it out. So again, maybe I'm misreading it, because it does seem like the 3 books will drop off, well, finish with Thrawn pretty much as he begins in Rebels. But I might be missing something. So again, this is where I haven't read the blurbs, I haven't read anything about Thrawn treason. Other than that, I've seen the Emperor, I think, on the cover. So yeah, I am completely in the dark. So I'm just looking forward to finishing this book and finding out what happens. So that is the summary up to now. I'm going to try and wrap it up as fast as I can, so I might do a chapter dump next week. I might do 22 to 26 or even more if I can fit it in. So let's see how many I can do. So for those of you who have been watching, thank you very much. I don't know who you are. I think I might have seen 1 or 2 viewers, so if you have watched it, thank you. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye for now, folks.